In the whirlwind of modern relationships, where love often dances on the edge of betrayal, the intertwining lives of two couples reveal the profound complexities of trust and heartbreak. As I navigated the painful waters of my failing marriage, I found solace in an unexpected connection with Norma, a woman who, like me, was grappling with the aftermath of infidelity. Our weekly dinners, initially framed as mutual support, evolved into a passionate affair that blurred the lines between desire and desperation. As we sought refuge from our tumultuous pasts, the question loomed: could we truly escape the shadows of our former lives? Or were we simply trading one heartache for another? What unfolded was a tale of revenge, betrayal, and the harsh realities of love, forcing me to confront the deepest truths about fidelity, self-worth, and the meaning of true companionship. The story unfolds as the protagonist navigates the stormy seas of divorce, betrayal, and complex emotions, ultimately seeking to reclaim his true self and find his place in the world. This journey is a whirlwind of passions and contradictions, drawing us deep into the complexities of human relationships, where love intertwines with deceit, betrayal is met with forgiveness, and hope battles disappointment. Why is it so challenging for people to admit they want a divorce? Why do they resort to lies and conceal extramarital affairs? These questions have haunted me for a long time, especially as I struggled to comprehend my wife's choice to play this dangerous game. If she had decided to take that step, then she would have to face the dire consequences that came with it. It was a lively Friday evening at the Alham Lounge, a hotspot buzzing with energy and laughter. The atmosphere was electric, and patrons were lost in their revelry. Yet as I sat at the bar nursing a vodka tonic, my presence there wasn't for the usual reasons of mingling or dancing. I had a purpose, a risky one that could potentially land me in serious trouble. My attention was riveted on a couple across the room. They had been my focus for nearly an hour, but the man was my primary target. He was a regular at the lounge, likely there to support his wife's brother, whose band played every Friday night. I waited patiently, my heart racing with anticipation, until finally, the moment I'd been waiting for arrived. The music slowed to a romantic waltz, and the couple stood up to take to the dance floor. Seizing the opportunity, I rose from my seat and approached them. With a casual tap on his shoulder, I asked, "May I cut in?" He turned to face me, bewildered by the sudden intrusion into his intimate moment. But before he could register what was happening, I struck him with a force fueled by my pent-up anger and frustration. Weighing in at 200 pounds, my surprise attack sent him tumbling to the ground where he lay vulnerable. In that split second, I seized the opportunity to inflict further damage, striking at his dignity. The shock on his wife's face morphed into horror as she witnessed the scene unfolding before her. But instead of retreating, her instinct kicked in when I pulled out my phone, showing her a compromising photo of her husband with my wife. Initially frozen in disbelief, her shock quickly ignited into rage. In a furious frenzy, she stabbed her husband repeatedly with the pointed toe of her 4-inch stiletto. I retreated to my seat at the bar, waiting for law enforcement to arrive for what I anticipated would be a necessary conversation. Surprisingly, it seemed no one had contacted the police. Instead, I was approached by a couple of individuals, the first being the brother of the band. After their performance, he came over and it was clear he wasn't there to cause trouble. "Why did you hit Jim?" he asked, genuinely puzzled. I pulled out the photo again and handed it to him. "The woman in this picture is my wife." He glanced at the image before returning it to me, a knowing look in his eyes. "I always told Norma that he was a jerk. Maybe now she'll believe me. I assumed he came here every Friday to support your band, but I guess your relationship is a bit more complicated than that." "You hit the nail on the head," I replied. "I can't stand him, and he knows it. He only shows up on Fridays because my deal with management includes free drinks for all my relatives." "Then why are you still here? I figured you'd want to leave after hitting him." "I anticipated the police might be called, and I'd prefer they confront me here rather than at home. But it's unlikely anyone called them. Jim's not particularly well-liked, and many people here probably enjoyed the spectacle." "Fair enough," he said. And with that, he headed back to find the rest of the band, as a few guys helped Jim off the floor and guided him to a booth. Moments later, his wife, Norma, approached me, a determined look on her face. "Do you have any more of those?" she asked, holding up the photo I had given her. "I have a couple dozen," I replied, "and 2 hours of video footage." "Can I have copies?" she inquired, her intensity palpable. "Of course. But you do realize you've created a problem for me tonight, right?" Shouldn't informing me solve a problem for me? Not that he can drive me home in his current condition. Even if he could, I wouldn't let him into my house. "No problem," I said. "I can drive you home. I'm ready to leave now." As we made our way to my car, I casually mentioned, "Your brother told me your name is Norma. Now that I know yours, I suppose it's only fair for you to know mine. I'm B. Lloyd." Given the circumstances, I couldn't say I was thrilled to meet her, but part of me felt a strange sense of relief. "In a way, I guess I'm somewhat pleased to make your acquaintance," I added. "That sounds a bit unusual," she replied, intrigued. "I'm pleased because you've given me a gift tonight." "A gift? I'm confused," she said, her brow furrowing. "You've granted me my freedom," I explained. "I've suspected Jim of cheating on me for a couple of years, but I lacked the means to hire a private investigator to gather solid evidence. What you provided me tonight is exactly what I need to end things with him." "That sounds familiar," she said, her voice softening. "I've had my suspicions that Vicky has been unfaithful for a while, but I only recently had the funds to hire someone. My grandfather passed away and left me some money. I never disclosed the amount to Vicky, so I used a portion of it to uncover the truth about her. When we arrived at her house, she hesitated. "I'd like to invite you in, but I'm concerned you might interpret it the wrong way." "Wrong way?" I asked, curious. "You might think I wanted to seek comfort after everything that just happened, but honestly, I just want to talk." As I stepped into her home, the weight of our shared pain settled between us, creating a bond that neither of us could have anticipated. We were two souls brought together by betrayal and the quest for truth, navigating the aftermath of shattered trust and broken relationships. A plan for revenge. I could hardly believe it. Vicky had chosen to get her revenge on Jim by being with another man, and she chose me for that purpose. But I didn't want to get involved in that drama. My intentions were far more focused. I was here to gather information about Jim and his actions, not to get tangled up in Vicky's schemes. "You can trust me," I said firmly. "If I were to join you in bed, I'd be no better than Vicky, and I'm not going to stoop to that level." I followed her into her house and into the living room. She gestured toward the couch and asked if I wanted something to drink or if she should prepare some coffee. "Coffee would be great," I replied. "But I don't plan on staying long. If I'm still here when your husband returns, I might just leave before things escalate again." She looked me straight in the eye, her expression serious. "He won't be coming back. Before I left him, I made it clear he shouldn't return. I warned him that if he did, I wouldn't hesitate to use my gun." "Would you really go that far?" I asked, genuinely intrigued. "Probably not," she admitted, a hint of vulnerability creeping into her voice. "But he knows I'm angry. He knows how I react when I'm angry, and he's aware I have a handgun." "You own a gun?" I was surprised. "It's just that besides law enforcement, I've never known a woman who owns a firearm." "I purchased it for protection," she explained as she moved to the kitchen to prepare the coffee. "When I deposit the day's earnings at the bank, I keep it with me. It's a Llama 380. It resembles a compact 45. Jim is aware that I'm proficient in its use." As I watched her, my mind raced. Why was Jim involved with my wife, especially when he had someone like Norma waiting at home? Norma was an attractive woman, and if I weren't still tied to Vicky, I might have considered pursuing her myself. But I was committed to Vicky, at least for now. Norma returned and sat beside me on the couch. "The coffee will be ready in about 5 minutes. So how long has Jim been involved with your wife?" "At least a month that I know of," I replied, my voice steady. "That's when I hired a private investigator to look into it. It could have been going on longer, though. Looking back, our marriage started to change about 2 years ago. I've been suspicious of Vicky for over a year now. I believe she's been cheating on me since our relationship shifted. Jim might be the only one, or he could be one of many." Norma's expression shifted slightly. "So, have you confronted her?" "I haven't confronted her yet," I admitted. "I suspect she'll find out when your husband calls her tomorrow. I'm curious to see how she'll handle it." "You've known for a month and let her continue?" Norma's eyebrows shot up in disbelief. "When I confirmed it, I consulted a lawyer about getting a divorce. Turns out we live in a state with no-fault divorce laws. It doesn't matter who's at fault. The divorce is straightforward. We'll split everything 50-50, I explained. Norma shook her head. I don't care about the laws. I'm not going to let Vicky benefit from betraying me. Once I understood the divorce process, I started rearranging and hiding assets. Vicky might get half, but it'll be half of a lot less than what was there a month ago. What can you tell me about Jim and your wife? I asked, steering the conversation back on track. They meet every Monday and Thursday, she said, her tone heavy with resignation. On those evenings, Vicky claims she's engaging in card games with her sorority sisters and attending a book club meeting at the library. But those nights are actually when Jim has his bowling league and large gatherings. I leaned forward, my curiosity piqued. He stayed at your place? For 3 nights while I was away on a business trip, she confirmed. That's where the videos I have came from. I can't confirm if it was a one-time occurrence, but considering I travel for work approximately once a month, it could have been a regular arrangement. That explains Jim's sudden business trips, I mused. They always seemed so last minute, but it never crossed my mind that they might be fabricated. What's your plan? She asked, her voice steady again. I'm going to end things with him, and quickly, before he has a chance to hide any assets. First thing Monday morning, I'll consult a lawyer. It's unfortunate they don't work on Saturdays, or I'd see one tomorrow, I replied, feeling a sense of determination. Actually, I know a lawyer who works on Saturdays. If you're serious, I can connect you with them, she offered. I'm dead serious. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number from my speed dial. Once the call connected, I switched to speaker mode. You can relax. I won't require your assistance to get out of trouble. How did you manage that? My friend asked, sounding surprised. I suppose he wasn't particularly popular and no one bothered to involve the police, I replied, a hint of pride in my voice. You must be one of the luckiest guys I know. I'll take any luck I can get, buddy, he said. By the way, I'm on speaker and I'm currently with the wife of the jerk. She mentioned she'd be waiting at the door of any attorneys working tomorrow morning. I know you don't usually handle these types of cases, but would you consider taking hers? Are you serious? With all the evidence you have against her husband, it seems like an easy win. Great, then it's settled. Norma, meet my fraternity brother Sam. Sam, meet Norma. I passed the phone to her and excused myself to use the bathroom, needing a moment to process everything that was happening. As I left, I couldn't shake the nagging thought that Vicky had gone too far. I could have overlooked a one-time mistake, but a prolonged affair. That was simply unacceptable. Plus, I couldn't forget the disparaging remarks she had made about me during their intimate encounters. This was going to be a messy battle, but I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. As I sat in silence, contemplating the tumultuous conversations I had endured, I prepared to share everything I had gathered. I felt a twinge of caution when I warned my friend that the evidence I'd collected painted a less than flattering picture of both of us. It struck me as ironic that we had both ended up with partners who seemed to be nothing more than losers in this twisted game of love and betrayal. Jim had always been the one who relied on me financially, the steady rock of our household. I understood all too well why he stayed with me. I was the financial backbone of our family. But the one comfort I clung to was my solid prenuptial agreement, which clearly outlined the consequences of infidelity. If he thought he could get away with cheating, he was sorely mistaken. I was determined to make sure that he would feel the weight of his actions. I glanced at my friend, who looked back at me with a mix of empathy and curiosity. If you're the one with the money, why didn't you consider hiring a private investigator? She asked. I sighed, feeling the burden of my circumstances. The money is tied up in a trust fund I can't touch until I turn 30. I still have 16 months to go. I can only use it for medical or educational expenses, and right now I need every penny to maintain our lifestyle. It's frustrating, especially since I earn a third more than Jim does. I paused, reflecting on the situation. If I had voiced my suspicions when I first suspected him of cheating, maybe things would have turned out differently. The prenup was clear about the consequences of adultery. He knew exactly what he was risking. But perhaps it speaks volumes about what he really thinks of me, that he believes I'm too oblivious to catch on to his deceit. When can I get copies of your findings? I asked, shifting the conversation back to the matter at hand. Sam has all the information. When you go to sign the paperwork, tell him I instructed him to provide you with copies, she replied. I glanced at my watch, realizing I needed to head home soon. Can I check in with you occasionally to see how things are going? Absolutely. I hope you do. Once again, thank you for the gift you've given me, she said sincerely. Perhaps I can treat you to dinner one evening as a token of my appreciation? That sounds lovely. I'll reach out once things settle down on my end. I'm not sure what awaits me there, I replied, a tinge of anxiety creeping into my voice. As I drove home, a mix of dread and resignation filled me. Vicky seemed to be her usual self when I walked through the door, which led me to believe that she hadn't received any communication from her lover. She greeted me with a warm kiss and immediately asked about my lateness. Al, my boss, wanted to celebrate signing the Johnson contract, so we stopped for a few drinks, I explained, feigning casualness. I had tried to call her, but my phone was left on my desk at work, and I hadn't heard the home phone ring. Have you eaten? She asked, glancing at me with concern. I had some snacks with the drinks, so I'm fine. Dessert? I offered. No thanks. What do we have? She replied with a mischievous smile, leading me to the bedroom. As I followed her, I felt a pang of guilt. Vicky was clearly trying to rekindle some intimacy, sensing the distance that had grown between us. It had been almost a week since we had been intimate, and I understood her need for closeness. However, I was still grappling with the remnants of my anger and betrayal. I hesitated, wondering if I should seize this moment or resist. In the end, I decided to give in. After all, who knew how long it would be before I had another chance for physical connection? I mustered a smile and replied, I'll accept your challenge. Say. As we were wrapped in each other's arms in bed, my mind kept drifting back to the hurtful words Vicky had uttered to her lover. I recalled how she had once mentioned my modest size and her dissatisfaction. For the first time in our marriage, after we had made love, I turned away from her instead of cuddling up. I was curious about how she felt at that moment. Was she lying awake, pondering the shift in our dynamic, or worrying about the changes in our relationship? Our usual Saturday routine was disrupted. Normally, we would wake up, shower, and enjoy breakfast together, but Vicky seemed troubled. She clearly wanted to show her love, and after some hesitation, we repeated the night's intimate actions. Afterward, we showered together and had a light breakfast. I spent the rest of the day tending to typical weekend chores, mowing the lawn, pulling weeds, and washing the cars. I was grateful I had decided to embrace these moments, as they reminded me of the importance of seizing opportunities. During dinner, Vicky mentioned that our intimate time would be put on hold for a while, as Aunt Flo had arrived a day earlier than expected. Sunday passed quietly, filled with mundane tasks and household chores. Around noon, Vicky's mother arrived to take her shopping, leaving me alone with my thoughts. With some free time on my hands, I decided to check in with Norma to see how she was coping. She explained that she had visited Sam's office and completed the necessary paperwork to initiate her divorce proceedings. After retrieving copies of the incriminating photos and videos, she had taken the time to review them at home. Feeling resolute, I prepared myself for what was to come when Jim returned home. He walked in as if nothing had happened, but I promptly demanded he leave. I made it clear that the house belonged to both of us, and I would not tolerate his presence any longer. When he refused to budge, I briefly left and returned with my pistol, instructing him to vacate the premises within a count of 10. His eyes widened as he grasped the seriousness of my tone. He understood I meant business and quickly made his exit. Would you really have gone that far after hearing the derogatory remarks he made about me in those videos? Norma asked incredulously. You bet I would have, I replied, feeling the adrenaline coursing through my veins. How are things going on your end? She asked, trying to lighten the mood. Quiet. It seems like Vicky hasn't heard anything from your husband either, or she's putting on an incredible act, I said, chuckling darkly. But deep down, I knew that the calm before the storm could only last so long. For years, I had been lulled into a false sense of security, convinced that I had a faithful and loving wife. Well, as they say, you live and you learn. Just then, I turned to my attorney, Sam. Did he mention when he'd have the paperwork ready? He said he'd submit it to the court first thing in the morning, Sam replied, his tone professional yet reassuring. He can serve Jim whenever you want. I'm not entirely sure about your plans, but I asked him to serve Jim at his workplace in the afternoon, I stated. Same here, Sam responded. I had hoped it would come as a big surprise to her, but that seems unlikely now. I sighed, feeling the weight of the situation. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to spoil it for you, I said, attempting to deflect the disappointment. No, you didn't spoil anything, Sam reassured me. I ruined it myself by confronting your husband on Friday night. Even if Jim doesn't tell her, he'll make it clear that I'm on to her when they talk at work on Monday. I nodded. The important thing is that it'll soon be over except for the legal stuff. Then I can finally start moving on with my life. Can we meet up on Monday evening? He suggested, a hint of enthusiasm in his voice. I'll treat you to that dinner I promised, and we can have a couple of drinks to celebrate. I won't know until late tomorrow if I can make it, I replied, feeling the weight of the upcoming change. I'll be busy moving out of the house as soon as Vicky leaves for work. The house belongs to her. Her parents gave it to her when they retired and moved to Arizona. I'll keep the plans open. Just give me a call if you're unable to make it, Sam said, his voice steady. Although the house was titled in Vicky's name, it was still subject to contention in our divorce proceedings. Despite her parents gifting her the property, it still had a mortgage that Vicky had taken on. I knew my earnings had contributed to half of those payments, and I was determined to reclaim some of that investment. Sam assured me I had a better-than-average chance of success. Later that day, when Vicky returned from shopping, she prepared dinner. We spent the evening relaxing on the couch, watching TV until it was time for bed. As we lay there, Vicky nestled close to me, blissfully unaware that it would be our last night together. In the morning, I bid her farewell with a soft kiss, and she assumed she would see me later that day, expecting dinner to be ready when she returned. Little did she know, I had planned to take the day off and vacate the house before she got back. I grabbed breakfast at a nearby restaurant, giving her enough time to leave for work. Once I was sure she was gone, I got to work packing my belongings. 30 minutes later, my brother Tom arrived, and by 1:00 p.m., we had moved all my stuff into his garage. It would stay there until I found a new place to live. Tom and his wife, Pat, graciously offered me a spare bedroom until I found permanent accommodation. After getting everything settled, I called Sam, who confirmed the plan to confront Vicky and Norma's husband at 2:30. On a whim, I decided to call Norma and see if she'd like some company while we waited for the anticipated phone calls after our spouses were served. She welcomed me over, and I arrived at her place a little after 2. As we sat at her kitchen table, sipping iced tea, we discussed our expectations regarding the fallout from serving the 2 cheaters. I speculated that Vicky would call, denying any wrongdoing and suggesting we talk it out. Are you going to? Norma inquired, curiosity in her eyes. No. All Vicky will do is lie and spout the usual excuses that cheaters make when they're caught. She'll say it's not what I think, that she loves only me, and we can overcome it all. It's the same old rubbish from the cheater's playbook. She's been deceiving me ever since she got involved with your husband, maybe even before that. I won't believe a word she says, so why waste my time talking to her? That pretty much echoes what I expect from Jim, Norma agreed, her expression sympathetic. Can we discuss something other than those 2 jerks? I suggested, eager to shift the conversation. How about those Broncos? I mentioned it casually as a joke, but to my surprise, she responded seriously. It all depends on Manning's performance. He's been inconsistent these past 2 seasons, and this year he seems prone to interceptions. If he can improve, the Broncos might have a shot at winning it all. I was impressed by her insight. She articulated exactly what I was thinking. We delved deeper into football discussions, particularly about Denver's defense, when my phone rang. Glancing at the caller ID, I saw it was Vicky. Checking the time, I realized it was 2:35. Time to face the music. Switching my phone to speaker mode, I said, steeling myself. Good afternoon, this is Bob. What the hell is going on with this divorce nonsense? Vicky's voice crackled through the speaker. It's typically what happens when someone discovers their supposedly faithful wife is cheating, I replied, my tone steady. How dare you call me a cheating wife? She shot back. Isn't that what you were doing with Jim? By the way, his wife feels the same way, just letting you know in case you missed the memo. I couldn't help but scoff. Where did you even get that twisted idea from? The photos and videos my private investigator gathered for me, I stated, trying to maintain my composure. Photos? Videos? I sincerely hope you're not going to attempt to convince me that it's all a misunderstanding, that those individuals in the pictures and videos aren't you. I might entertain the idea that you have a doppelganger or something, but I won't believe for a second that Jim also has a double, and that your doppelganger just happened to coincide with my private investigator's findings. Admit it, Vicky, you've been caught, I pressed, feeling a surge of adrenaline. We'll discuss this when we're home tonight. No, we won't. By the time you get home, you'll find that I've left. Any further communication between us will have to go through my attorney. Goodbye, Vicky. Just as I ended the call, I noticed Norma's phone began to ring. She glanced at the screen, her brow furrowing slightly. It's Jim. He never calls me during the day, she chuckled, adding, I wonder what urgent matter has come up. Answering the call, she activated the speakerphone. Hello, it's me. What's all this talk about divorce? Jim's voice came through, laced with confusion. Norma glanced at me, a smirk on her face. It seems we're all following the same script, huh? I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction as I listened in, knowing that the dominoes were finally starting to fall into place. As I picked up the phone, I couldn't help but tell Bob, You know, it sounds like you and your mistress are following the same script. Your words when I answered the call are nearly identical to what she said when she called you. Who's Bob? He asked, confusion lacing his voice. I'm your soon-to-be ex-wife's new partner, I replied, a sense of satisfaction creeping into my tone. Why are you with my wife? He demanded, his tone turning defensive. We both knew the situation had escalated. We had watched the video obtained by his private investigator, which clearly showcased the interaction between him and his wife. Frankly, it was painfully obvious to us both that neither of them would ever make it in the adult film industry. Really? You think so? Bob scoffed. She satisfies me much better than you ever satisfied her. Delusional much? I shot back. Norma is far superior to the woman I was married to, and she's way better than you, even on your best day. Norma exchanged a triumphant smile and a high five with me before she chimed in. Just like Bob told his cheating wife a few minutes ago, from now on, all communication will go through my lawyer. You should find his card along with the legal documents that were handed to you. You can come by at 6 p.m. to collect your things. But let me be clear. While you're here, I'll have my pistol ready with a round in the chamber and cocked. Bob paused, caught off guard. You jerk. You caught me off guard. Just you wait. I'll be seeking revenge. You won't have to search far, I replied coolly. I'll be waiting for you on the front porch tonight when you come to get your things. Bring your A game. I've got a lot of pent-up anger, and beating you up might just help release some of it. Bob fell silent, and after about 30 seconds, Norma assumed he had hung up, so she closed her phone. Are you really going to wait for him on the steps? I asked, concern creeping into my voice. I will, she insisted. I don't want him to think I'm a liar or that I'm scared of him. I'll have dinner ready just in case you're hungry after I check out a couple of apartments this afternoon. But I'll be back by 5 p.m. in case he shows up early. I appreciate the offer, but it wouldn't look right, I said. I'm only offering you a place to stay, not any special treatment. Even so, I don't want to give her anything she can use against me. I've got her trapped, and I don't want to give her any leeway. The offer stands if you change your mind, she replied. But I could tell she wasn't fully convinced. After my search for apartments, I returned to Norma's place by 10 to 5. We settled into the front porch swing, where she served iced tea and cookies as we talked. The conversation eventually turned to my pending divorce. What's your plan regarding your ex? Norma asked, curiosity sparking in her eyes. I've already taken action, I replied. I'm moving out and initiating the divorce proceedings. I have no desire for revenge, none at all. It seems futile. Any retaliation would only lead to escalation. Frankly, I don't have enough regard for Vicky to invest any effort into it. Just as I spoke, a car pulled into the driveway at 20 minutes to 6. Norma's husband stepped out, catching sight of us on the swing. He seemed amused as he walked toward us, retrieving a baseball bat from the trunk. "Looks like I took your advice and brought my game," he joked, gesturing the bat toward me. As I scanned the area for something to use as a makeshift weapon, a loud bang pierced the air. I turned to see Norma's husband collapse to the ground. My gaze darted to Norma, who was now brandishing what appeared to be a compact .45 aimed at her fallen spouse. "Oh my God! You shot me!" he howled in agony. "Damn it, I was right. You are completely inadequate and dangerous to society." "But it was only in the foot," she replied calmly. "Consider yourself lucky that I aimed well with this thing." Setting the firearm beside her on the swing, she pulled out her phone and dialed 911. "My husband attacked me with a baseball bat, and I had to defend myself. Please send an ambulance." "No, he's writhing in agony on the ground, screaming at me. He's not in a position to hurt me," she continued, her voice steady. "I see," the operator said. "I'll hang up as soon as the police arrive." "Not unless he gets back on his feet and tries to attack me again," she added coolly. "If he does, I won't hesitate to empty the magazine into his torso." After ending the call, she turned to me. "You should probably leave before the police arrive. There's no point in involving you in this." "No way," I protested. "I'll support you. Run inside and gather all the evidence you received from Sam, then bring it out here. We'll tell the police that I was delivering the items to you and that I arrived just as he approached you with the bat." As I heard him yelling, "Divorce me. I'll mess you up before I let that happen," I replied calmly, "He'll deny it and accuse us of lying." "So what?" Norma shot back. "It'll still be our word against his, and the bat next to him has his fingerprints all over it. We'll stick to the truth about everything else until he pulled into the driveway. We can tell them about waiting together for his frantic calls and what was said. How you informed him he could collect his belongings at 6. I'll get the pictures and videos from Sam and plan to return by 6 to be here in case he tries anything foolish," I said, feeling a sense of urgency. I arrived just after him and witnessed the entire altercation unfold. "Do you think they'll buy it?" I asked. "As long as we stay consistent with our story, it should work," she reassured me. During our conversation, the foolish man continued to roll on the ground, clutching his leg and swearing. Norma fetched some materials from the house, and upon her return, we sat on the swing, listening to her husband's complaints while we awaited the arrival of the police. As sirens approached, 2 police cars pulled up and 4 officers emerged, guns drawn and aimed in our direction. They fanned out, cautiously advancing toward the porch while Norma and I raised our hands, showing we were unarmed. 2 officers rushed to the injured man who cried out, "She shot me! The woman shot me!" Once the police secured the area, an ambulance arrived to transport the wounded man away. I instructed the officers to handle the baseball bat carefully, explaining that it was evidence. Afterward, Norma and I were separated and taken to the police station, each placed in different rooms. A detective came in, and I recounted my version of events. 3 hours later, I was released and driven home, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger storm brewing on the horizon. After a whirlwind night, I found myself back at Nora's place, retrieving my car before heading over to Tom's place. Norma had stayed with him until around noon the next day, and as soon as she got home, she called me to give me an update. "It seems like the police accepted our explanation," she said, her voice a mix of relief and exhaustion. "I was only charged with discharging a firearm within city limits, and they released me without bail." Reflecting on our experience at the station, we reassured each other that things would likely turn out all right. "I'd invite you over for dinner," she said, "but given the circumstances, I think it's best we keep our distance for a while." I nodded in agreement, but assured her that I would stay in touch. Later that afternoon, around 4 o'clock, Norma called again. "You won't believe this," she said, The incident made the local newspaper. Have you seen it? When I admitted that I hadn't, she suggested I head to the 7-Eleven to grab a copy. I was relieved to find that my name hadn't made the headlines. Instead, there was a feature on Norma and her husband, detailing that he had been hospitalized, though thankfully not in critical condition. The article also mentioned that Norma had been charged, but released without bail. That same afternoon, my phone lit up with notifications, 11 missed calls from Vicky. I deleted each one promptly, feeling a mix of annoyance and dread. Yet by the time the 12th call came through, I was filled with impatience and decided to answer.
"Bobby, I need to talk to you," Vicky pleaded, her voice frantic. "Please, just listen. I want to explain what happened and why. I love you and I don't want to lose you." "That may be what you need, Vicky," I interrupted. "But what I need is to end things with you for good. This is the last time we're speaking. I'll fight the divorce, Bobby. I'll hire the best lawyer and make this difficult for you," she threatened, her voice rising.
"I know people who've been through divorces, and I know what I can do." "You haven't learned a thing, Vicky," I retorted, trying to remain calm. "You can't prevent a divorce. Sure, you can make it lengthy and expensive, but you can't stop it unless I agree. You can't force me to take you back or live with you. All you'll do is waste our money on lawyers and court fees. If you want to spend years paying your lawyer, go ahead. Eventually, I'll be granted the divorce no matter what." I paused, struck by an idea. "You know," I said slowly, "maybe your resistance to the divorce could actually work in my favor. I could instruct my lawyer to halt the proceedings altogether. Truth is, I don't see the need for it. I have no intention of remarrying. Being single isn't a pressing concern for me. Plus, it would save me money. No hefty legal fees, no court-ordered alimony, and no messy asset division. The more I think about it, the more appealing it sounds. So go ahead, Vicky, contest it, and I'll retract. That suits me just fine." I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment. Who knows? Someday you might meet someone and want to tie the knot. You could find yourself on the other side of a divorce, then you'd be the one facing legal fees and court costs. If I relent now, I won't have to spend a penny. Then again, maybe I'll choose to contest it just to prevent you and your new love from marrying. The choice is yours, Vicky. Sign the papers, and it'll all be over in a few months. Resist, and I'll stick to my plan. But regardless of what you decide, one thing is certain. As far as you're concerned, I'm gone for good. Goodbye, Vicky. With that, I ended the call, feeling a strange mix of relief and empowerment. The next month unfolded in a series of events, some positive, others less so. Vicky hadn't signed or returned the divorce papers, but she also hadn't hired an attorney to contest the proceedings. Sam speculated that she believed by not signing, the divorce process would come to a halt, sparing her attorney fees. Her assumption was incorrect, but it wasn't in our interest to correct her. We had proof of service, and her lack of response meant the proceedings would continue. On a brighter note, Norma's husband faced felony charges of menacing, which enabled her to obtain a restraining order against him. However, the less favorable news was that he had secured legal representation to contest the divorce, potentially prolonging the process and driving up costs. Additionally, the district attorney, likely concerned about re-election, persisted with charges against Norma, possibly to avoid appearing lenient on crime. During the divorce hearing, Vicky's absence, stemming from her misguided belief that non-participation would halt proceedings, led the judge to grant my petition. As I left the courtroom, I couldn't help but feel a surge of anticipation. In 120 days, I would finally be a free man. That evening, I met with Norma for dinner, where she once again extended her offer of accommodation. "You don't need to worry about appearances anymore now that your divorce has been finalized," she said, trying to ease my concerns. "That may be true for me," I replied, "but it's different for you. You can't risk giving Jim anything that could be used against you." "I'm not worried," she assured me. "Sam has told me that the divorce will be straightforward because of the adultery and the incident with the bat. Sure, the divorce might go smoothly, but dividing assets could complicate matters for you. Your presence here might only add to that." "That's irrelevant," she insisted. "The most he can claim is half of the house and some of our savings. Besides, I'm about to inherit my trust in a year. I'll be fine, so I'm not worried about any of that." But I felt the weight of the situation pressing down on me. "It's probably not the best time to say this," I confessed, "but I've developed feelings for you over the past few months. I don't want to do anything that might make things harder for you."
Why would you say that? Why shouldn't you express your feelings?
She asked, tilting her head in confusion. "Because I want to be with you, but I can't," I replied, frustration creeping into my voice.
Why not? Have you considered that your feelings might be mutual?
She inquired, her gaze steady and sincere. "That's not the issue, Norma. We can't give the district attorney or your husband anything they could use against us in court. I might have to testify in both trials, and I need to minimize any potential damage. Maybe we can meet once this is all settled, but for now we have to keep our distance." The tension in the room was palpable as we both considered the complications that lay ahead, knowing we had to navigate this difficult landscape with care. For 2 months, I took Norma out for dinner every week. We framed it as a way to keep each other updated on our divorces, given that both our spouses had played significant roles in the breakdown of our marriages. However, I knew it was a bit of a risk. We had to maintain some distance until our court cases were resolved. When I shared my thoughts with her, she stared at me for a moment and said, "Why does life have to be so complicated?" I completely understood her frustration. During those weeks, I battled my own inner turmoil. I wanted to be with Norma, yet I knew we had to tread carefully. Meanwhile, Vicky bombarded me with calls, 3 or 4 a week, pleading for me to talk to her and begging me to return home. It was both infuriating and exhausting. The trial involving Norma turned out to be a letdown. The district attorney called Norma's husband as a key witness, but he made a huge blunder during his testimony. He initially denied that the bat was meant for Norma, but inadvertently revealed that it was intended for me instead. I could see the disappointment on the district attorney's face as Jim's gaffe indicated he hadn't been properly prepared for this moment. Norma stood firm with the story we agreed upon, and then it was my turn to testify. Yes, I knew I was giving false testimony, but at that moment, I didn't care. After everything Jim had done to ruin my life, I felt justified in giving him a taste of his own medicine. The jury deliberated for less than 15 minutes before reaching a guilty verdict. Jim was sentenced to a year and a day, but he managed to make a fool of himself even more by publicly threatening me in front of the judge, the jury, and the audience. "I'll get you for this, just wait," he said, and I couldn't help but grin at him, anticipating the day he would seek retribution, knowing his outburst would be documented and could send him back to prison. After the trials were over, I accepted Norma's invitation to move in with her. On my first night there, she slipped into bed beside me, whispering, "I've been dreaming about this for months." I felt a rush of excitement and desire. In a moment of irony, I recalled a conversation I had with Jim, joking that Norma was far better than Vicky in bed, and it turned out to be true. Our first night was wonderful, filled with passion and chemistry. However, as the days turned into weeks, I found myself scaling back our physical encounters. I had to insist on reducing our frequency to conserve energy for work. We settled into a routine of once a night, 4 to 5 times a week, with maybe 2 or 3 sessions on the weekends. I wish I could say our story ended with a happily ever after, but that wouldn't be accurate. Norma and I shared a fiery relationship that sometimes felt overwhelming. Yet eventually, we both realized that our bond was primarily built on physical intimacy and mutual interests, like football. We genuinely liked each other, but love was conspicuously absent from the equation. Our connection held strong until the day she casually mentioned she wanted to meet someone new to explore things with. I took that as my cue to leave. As I packed my things, I wished her the best and assured her I'd be there if she ever needed me. "I'll remember that," she replied, but after that night, I never heard from her again. 2 days after my divorce from Vicky was finalized, she received the papers in the mail and promptly called me, her voice dripping with anger. "You despicable person! How could you betray me like this? I never agreed to any of this nonsense. You earn twice as much as I do. How is that fair?" Her voice raised, she continued, And this claim that I owe you $30,000 for your supposed share of the house? You have no claim to the house. It's mine. Solely mine. I couldn't help but chuckle at her outrage. Oh, but you did agree. You agreed by not seeking legal counsel and by not contesting the divorce. If you need to, you can take out a second mortgage on the house to settle my share. Look at it positively. It only cost you $30,000 to be rid of me. That's quite a bargain.
But I didn't want to be rid of you,
She protested as I hung up. I felt relieved that she couldn't see my expression. The truth was, I hadn't wanted to let her go either. However, the hard reality was that I couldn't stay with someone who cheated on me. I held firm to the belief that once a cheater, always a cheater. This story is a tapestry of emotions and twists, reflecting the complexities of interpersonal relationships. It underscores the significance of self-discovery and the search for true meaning in life, even in the most challenging times.